Hey, so this is going to be for our watercolor color wheel and some of our test values and our test intensities. So on this big sheet, if you're somebody who's at home, you could take like a dinner plate, okay? One of your larger dinner plates. I'm going to take mine here and I'm going to just trace around the outer edge of it with a pencil, okay, to get a basic circle for myself, right? Okay, and then I'm going to take a ruler and start dividing up my plate area. All right, I'm going to kind of look at dividing it in halfsies, and then we're going to go half again and half again until you end up with 12 open spaces. So if we've got kind of a halfway there, let's see, this plate was 10.5 inches, that's 5 and, nope, 10.5, sorry, it's 10.25. So that's 5 1/8, so about right here. So I'm gonna go counter the other way. So here we go there. And then we'll start to kind of have ourselves, we went 3 sections, 1, 2, 3, 3, 3, and 3. So we've got 12 open spaces, right? So I'm going to come over here and give a little bit of a pie wedge here. That way I've got it on both sides. I'm going to continue over here about the same kind of pie wedge. That looks about good there. Come through here. So there's 3 and 3. There's 6. And then I've got to get my other 6 going. Come down here. All right, we'll go this way. And then one more time, kind of dividing that space up. And now I have 12 areas for our 12 colors on the color wheel, right? Okay. We need to label the color wheel. So I'm not labeling inside, I'm gonna label on the outside. At the top near 12 o'clock, and we don't have a perfect 12 o'clock right now, just pick one of these to be your 12 o'clock. I'm gonna say this is 12 o'clock and this is yellow. We have 1 o'clock is our yellow green. We have 2 is our green. We have 3 is our blue-green. We have 4 is our blue. 5 is our blue-violet. 6 and 12 are opposite each other, so that's violet. We've got 7 is red-violet. We've got 8, which is red. 9 is, whoops, where's that? Red, orange. Lost my track of thought. There we go. We have 10, and we have yellow. Oh, sorry, red, orange. Nope, we got orange. Sorry, I just did red, orange. And 11, we have yellow, orange. Okay, so we got them all labeled going around the clock. Cool. Inside of our big wheel, we need a smaller something. So I came and found like a little small lunch plate. You might have a paper plate that's kind of small, a little lunch plate. See how it's a little bit smaller than the rest of my wheel is, right? And I'm going to kind of lay it somewhere in the center because we need a big ring and we need an inside ring. So I'm going to hold this down and trace this little guy. Okay, so I used a big plate and then a smaller plate. Maybe you find a big lid and a small lid of something to utilize. Just thinking of things that you might have at home, okay? On the outside of our ring, it's going to be our true colors of the color wheel that we're going to mix. On the inside ring, we're going to put their complementary color, the color that is opposite of it on the color wheel. To see them next door to each other and how they kind of create that visual vibration that our eyes find appealing when those two opposite or complements meet each other. The supplies that you're going to need for working at home and in the studio are going to be similar. You'll need some paper towel, so I have a little paper towel piece here because wiping your brush off is going to be super helpful. All right. You're going to need something to put a little bit of water in. This does not have to be full. I just have a Dixie cup from my bathroom. You can use a piece of Tupperware or whatever Mom will let you have if you need something. But again, I'm only going to put just a little bit of water in here. Don't fill it up. It's just to rinse out some of the color. Now, if you're using something lightweight like this, I'm going to take a little bit of tape and kind of fold it over and stick it to the bottom of this so it can kind of stick to my table so I don't hit it and knock it over. All right, you've got your need for your brush as well, and then your watercolor tray, which we have that we've traveled home with or that you have, okay? Something to note, this comes out, so you can pop this out and clean and rinse anything out that you need to, and then you can dry it and put this back in so those pans come out, all right? So that has us set up and ready to work. The first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna start with putting down the primary colors first. So there's no mixing with these. I'm gonna take a scrap piece of paper and cover this right now in my frame just so that I'm not damaging anything. I'm gonna start with the red color first, but I wanna show you how to work with your palette, okay? The idea of watercolor is that it is fluid. It is not going to be solid, it's not thick paint. So I'm going to take a little bit of my water and I start to wake up, this cake pan, okay? Now, I'm not gonna just come out of here. I'm actually going to keep wetting it and I'm gonna bring some of that nice rich color over here, all right? I'm gonna wet it just a little bit more to kind of keep it fluid. All right, so see how rich that red is over here, okay? So again, I'm not taking it from the pan, which is gonna get pasty, okay? I'm coming over here and I'm putting just a little bit of water in to kind of make it move around, all right? So then I'm gonna move this out of the way. Still have my little guy here. And I'm gonna now start to come in. This is the true color area, and I wanna put this color in this area. So I'm gonna kind of consider going along this outer edge. Now look, I didn't paint back and forth, back and forth. Back and forth, it makes your brush open up and go outside of the lines. I'm gonna come down a little bit more and I'm gonna kind of go straight across. Look at that. I'm kind of outlining a little bit as I go. Yeah, and if you feel your brush is kind of running out of juice, then rejuice it. See, we've already got the juice over here. So I'm coming down a little bit more. I'm going to keep going across. All right. So it's not back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, because you don't want to drip or splatter. All right. So I'm picking up some more of my true red there. Going across, coming down. And if it helps to kind of turn your paper a little bit to kind of go along this line, that's fine too. Some people find it hard to kind of come down to a line and not accidentally go over it. So see, here I am, I'm coming, there we go. All right, coming down this way, coming down this way. Now I'm gonna turn my hand a little bit so I can just drag my brush. Another way to make a line nice and smooth is dragging the brush. Look at that. I didn't kind of have my brush up high, I kind of just plopped it and moved along the edge. Great way to kind of capture that. Okay, now I know that on the other side of the wheel, I'm gonna need the same color, right? And we go across over here to where green is at, and I need to do red here because red is the complementary color of green. So I'm going to tackle that, but oh no, I don't think I have enough juice to go the distance. So that means I'm going to need to come in here, reactivate this some more, gather up some more of that pigment, put it in here, and just a little bit of water to kind of get it flowing, right? Okay, I probably have enough nice rich red now to work. And again, I'm going to follow the line. I'm dragging my brush one direction. All right, I could kind of do that here, just lay my brush out, whoosh, all right, picking up some more because I'm running out of juice. Now, I wouldn't come along and do green right now because green is going to be right up against this and it's my red is currently wet. If a wet color hits another wet color, we know we've seen that happen before, kind of like a bleed with a Sharpie marker, okay? It's gonna ooze and spread. All right, so I'm pushing up against the line there. All right, going against the line. So again, avoid the back and forth and kind of just let the brush follow the line. So we have those two down, and you're going to work your way to your other colors, okay? So go into your yellows, go into your blues to finish your primary colors and do them in their opposite places, all right? So you get the primary colors done. And then, depending on your time, you can start to work on your secondary colors, because we have those as well without having to mix our orange, our green, and our violets, okay? Come back next and we'll talk about our tertiary colors and how to best mix your flavors. Okay, so I'm back and I've got my primary and my secondary colors already painted in. But something that I wanted to show you before I cleaned my tray out. Remember I said I could pop these out, my little tray cakes, and I could kind of mix and stuff in here. But something I wanted to show you, because the tray wasn't clean when I started, there was sort of an ooze of blue along the edges previous to me putting blue here. It started to ooze into my orange, so it violated it. I had to stop using it. So if a color on your palette blends into another color, it's not pure anymore. You gotta stop using that, okay? So I had to start in another location and start with my orange fresh again, because this one was null and void because it had already mixed with some blue and it was starting to turn brown. Remember when we talk about our, when we read about in our chapter about color, about mixing opposite colors together, they create some kind of a neutral or a brown. Well, that's what's happening here along the edges. Those colors are mixing and naturally kind of making a brown out of my orange and my blue. So you don't want one color violating another color until we're ready for it. So we're ready for it now. So I'm gonna go really scrub and clean my tray out. That means I might have to take a paper towel into that little nook and cranny over there. Look at my paper towel already. It's kind of all colored for me, kind of dabbing off my paintbrush here and there. So I'll be back after I clean off my tray and we'll talk about tertiary colors. Okay, I'm back, and something that you might notice is that the end of your brush itself might be turning a color, and that's okay. The paints of any kind will stain the bristles. If your bristle started out as white, this will be a little stained, just as long as, you know, when you wipe your brush onto a paper towel, there's still not color coming out. That means you'll need to take a little bit of soap in your fingers and kind of gently work it through your brush and then rinse it off, so you start to get some more of the pigment out of your brush. All right, so I started playing around with tertiary colors. Look how I kind of mixed the beginnings of a yellow-green and a red-violet. Well, let me show you how to start working with those tertiary mixes. All right, we cleaned our tray out, and like I'm starting to work in some of these new little containers, but something that I'm noticing is that even when you try to keep the stirring just inside the container, look how it's oozing out into other areas, right? This is starting to ooze over here, so I can't put any color over here or over here because it is going to bump into that. And then I have that whole, you know, infected color thing. So I'm going to work over here. So after 2 or 3 colors, you're probably going to have to rinse this out occasionally, okay? It's also good for some colors to change and make sure you've put a little soap inside your brush to make sure that the colors stay pure. Muddy colors aren't going to work for this. These are the pure colors of the color wheel. So we need to have them as non-violated as possible. All right, so here we go. we're gonna work with mixing sort of a lighter color first. Let's go with like, let's do like red-orange kind of a deal here. So I'm gonna come in here and I'm gonna start to mix with the orange first, because the orange is lighter than the red. So we always are gonna start with the general rule for mixing of using lighter colors first, and then we're going to add the slightly darker color or the very darker color inside of it. Okay, so I'm getting this orange all set up to start adding some red to it, because the red is a little bit darker. Okay, now if you happen to be somebody who's got a little bit of color blindness, don't be ashamed, don't be worried with it. A lot of males, it is very dominant in a male gene for some folks to be colorblind, and that's okay. And if you're in the classroom, ask me what the differences of the colors are, or to kind of help you out, or ask a neighbor, or if you're at home, ask mom, dad, brother, sister, say, which color is this, so I know I'm grabbing the right one. The trays generally have them in order from red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet, like the spectrum, right? So that'll kind of help you out as well. But here I go, I've got my orange. Now I need to add a little bit of red. Now I'm just dabbling my brush just a little bit into the red. I didn't swath it around there a whole bunch, just a little bit to start mixing, all right? Now, I don't need this to get super, super red, because we just need it to kind of have the appearance of being somewhere between these two visually. So I'm going to scoop just a little bit more in there. I'm going to go a little bit more. I'm kind of looking at what my original orange used to look like. Okay, so I'm using this that it's no longer really that true bright orange anymore, but it's not truly red. This looks like a pretty good mix. So I'm going to give it a shot. All right, so I'm going to come in over here and I'm going to start to paint. All right, now I'm going right up against the orange first, because I really want to make sure that my difference has actually happened. And I can see there's definitely a reddening going on. Now with watercolor, with the way some things dry and the way they look, they might lay a little different, dry a little darker in some areas, lighter in others. It kind of depends on how much of the pigment goes down as you're doing it. So we might need to wait for it to dry to kind of get our base opinion. Like I said, I kind of did a little bit of yellow-green as a sample run earlier to kind of get my bearings. And what I have discovered is I think that my yellow-green is a little too yellow, okay? It's not quite a really nice lime that needs to be sort of the halfway between a green and a yellow, okay? So I'm letting it dry, right? The wonderful thing about watercolors is I can come back in and I can add more green to my previous mixture. I can put more green in here, and then I can go over that area now that it's dry and maybe give it a little bit more oomph to it, okay? So right now I'm gonna have to see how this dries out for me as far as the red-orange goes. Let me see about a blue-green, sort of its opposite color here. We'll work with some that's a darker one. Okay, so I'm gonna clean this off a little bit, and I'm gonna go to the opposite end of my tray, and I'm going to work with the blue and the green. Now, here's the tricky part. Blue and green are almost equally as dark. Almost. This is just a little bit brighter, so I'm going to start with some green. Okay. Blue is just a little bit darker, but they're pretty darn close. If you put them on a Xerox machine, if you scribble with a green crayon and then a blue crayon, they both turn out to be really dark grays on a Xerox machine. So they're really close to each other. That's one way to kind of test the darkness of color sometimes. All right, so getting this all nice and worked up here with some gooey greens. Okay, now because they are closer in darkness, that means I might have to use a little bit more of the blue. Clean that off. A little bit more of the blue to get the green to look like it's changing. So I'm going to swath around in here, and we're going to start to kind of mix these two together. Now that's pretty darn still green to me, okay? So I'm going to go and grab some more blue. Add some more blue to this mix. Okay, now we're starting to get a little bit more blue-ish, but it's still pretty green, okay? I'm going to come in here again. See if we can get some more blue. All right, now we're starting to change a little bit more. I'm going to go one more helping. There we go. Now I got something that seems like it's got enough blue in it, but it's also got that hint of green. All right, so let's come over here and I'm going to hit the blue-green area, and I'm going to put it up against the green because I was trying to make sure it was far enough away from green. Looks like we are. All right. And then as we start to get over here, it's definitely not that Kentucky blue anymore. So we're going to come over here. All right. And so again, I would wait until it dries, kind of take a peek at it. So again, I'm dragging along my edges here. Drag. Okay. To make sure that I like the color, that it's going to work for me. So I'll paint it in both areas, let it dry a little bit. And if I need to mix a darker version, I can always bump that up and add a darker version to it so I can get closer. But I think it's pretty close right now, okay? The one I'm still just kind of not real thrilled about is my yellow-green. It's kind of pale. Look how close it is to this and how far away it is from that. So I definitely need to have a little bit more yellow-green, okay? So things to consider. Wash your brush often. Rinse it, but don't let your cup just get dirty and nasty because that's not going to get the paint out of the bottom of your bristle. What down here is called the ferrule, and that's where some of the paint just kind of lays down in there. So soap and water across that several times, all right? Don't let your colors get muddy in your tray, so you'll probably need to rinse, okay, if they start to ooze into other sections so you don't violate a color before you're ready to violate a color. Amen.